What brings us here? Well, our featured artist today lives and works out of Excelsior. Marla Mullany. She's an impressionistic type of painter that works out of her home where she has a gallery and a studio. And Marla has been kind enough to invite us to her home today. So let's not keep Marla waiting. Please join me as we view the works of Marla Mullany.
Good morning, Michael. It's great to have you. Thank you very much for coming. I want to show you some of my artwork that's on the walls and the painted furniture and upholstery, some jewelry. And don't trip over the dog and come on along. Let's take a tour. I'd like to start the tour with my very first plein air painting. It's called Golden Arches, and it's an oil painting that I did in San Miguel de Allende in Mexico, on the streets. Plein air means, it's a French term that means that you set up your easel and you paint what you see, or you try to. And what I wasn't quite prepared for was the people gathering around me to watch me paint my very first plein air. But I'm happy with it. I really like the feeling and the texture and the colors, and it reminds me of a fun time there. This is another plein air painting I did. It's a small oil painting called Morning Market, and it's from San Miguel de Allende. It was a woman quietly setting up her tomatoes and her different incredibly colored fruits and vegetables, and just a nice, serene, kind of upbeat feeling to it. I got down just what I needed to get down before she was surrounded with people buying her fruits and vegetables. It was a fun piece to do. This is also an oil painting, and in a way it's plein air because I did partly the sketch on site, but then I went to the studio to finish it. The name of it is Blue Shed, which isn't the catchiest of titles, but it's self-descriptive in that it is this old blue shed that stood in Excelsior since 1910 or something like that. And just every time I would pass by it, it just had this funky, charming, vintage nostalgia feeling to it, and I had a really fun time painting this. This is also an oil painting, and it is from my imagination. It's called Labor of Love, and the inspiration for it is my sister, who actually has red hair, but she works in a flower shop and just very artful with flowers. And she always got this kind of silly, faraway look in her eye, which I was trying to capture here. And I just like the kind of upbeat, very colorful texture and energy. I also embellished it with pastels to give it just even more pop, and that's why I have it matted and glass in front of it. This mural is about 4 feet by 6 feet, and it's painted with acrylics. It was actually kind of a cathartic exercise for me. It was when my children made me an empty nester. I did not make it look easy, and so I needed to paint something. So I painted them both. They were never the same age at the same time, but you can do that when you're painting things. You can change things. And I painted them as cherubs, which they certainly never were either. But anyway, it worked for me, and it's just a pleasant reminder of them in my dining room. It's about 4 feet by 6 feet, and it was another one that I painted on canvas and transported it. It's surrounded with molding, painted the same color as the wall, so it looks like it's been there for a while. This little piece is an oil painting that I did after a beautiful trail ride on a fall day, and the lighting was just phenomenally beautiful, and you could hear the crunch of the leaves, and the horses were just happy to be out there. So I had to come from there and try to do a painting of it. This mural, which is about 4 feet by 5 feet, is painted with acrylic paint, and it is named The Garden Path. It's reminiscent of a farmhouse that I lived in before moving to Excelsior. It was a horse farm we lived in, and I just think it's kind of a fun, upbeat, garden scene that kind of draws you into the house. And it was painted, I painted it on a piece of canvas and then was able to kind of roll it up and transport it. I cut mitered corners for the molding, and it looks like it's always been there. Anybody that knows me very well knows I'm kind of a painting fool. I will paint anything that'll hold still long enough. And this couch was my first painted upholstery piece. Little bit of a story behind it. When my mom passed away, she had had this brown brocade couch forever, for decades, and nobody kind of wanted it or claimed it. And I thought, well, I gotta do something with it. So I had always wanted to paint a piece, and I had this fellow in Hopkins kind of reshape it into a camelback shape with the extreme rolled arms. And then we put about 14 yards of canvas on it. And I kind of had at it. I went to, what I wanted to do was depict my mom taking a nap in the sunshine with my little schnauzer dog, and just kind of a peaceful Matisse feeling to it. I luckily happened upon a really good combination, which is acrylic and a heat additive chemical that has been just as durable as can be. I spilled red wine on this and wiped it right off, and it's just been a fun project, and not tough to sit on either. It's just as comfortable as can be. So that kind of started me rolling on some other painted pieces, and now I do cushions and pillows and a lot of wooden furniture also. So that was the beginning. Another piece that I have personalized that was kind of a fun one is this, which was a typical kind of traditional upholstered chair that became kind of boring to me, and I wanted to do something more personalized. So I again covered it with canvas, the same technique with acrylic paint and an additive. And I was able to personalize it with my memorializing my favorite pets, Beanie and Lenore. And it's just a fun piece, and it's worn so well. I'd like to show you a few other pieces that are painted upholstery or painted furniture that have been kind of personalized. These cushions I painted for a cowboy in Colorado. These are actually duplicates of the ones. And they depict him doing what he loves, doing his passion, which is riding his horse and rounding up Angus cattle, an Angus calf. And this again was with the heat sedative with acrylic paint. And what's fun about that is that I can kind of personalize pieces for people's passions. I've done Harley Davidsons and a lot of horses and fishermen, just anything. Sometimes grapes. I have done some grapes because people are wine lovers or whatever. But this piece I haven't painted yet. I got it because I just love the lines. I think it's just exquisite, and I don't think I'll be very heavy-handed with it either because it's already got its own beautiful lines and its own integrity going. Just a fun little funky pillow there. And these pieces are just painted wooden furniture, which I have had a lot of fun doing. This is just kind of a sassy, colorful piece and very fun, durable. And I usually seal it with many coats of poly so that it's there to stay. This wooden chair I got as far as doing the seat, and then I thought, that's enough. It doesn't need any more. It's already done. It's got its own kind of lines and shape going, so I just left it at that. But it's fun and functional. Okay, this piece is a vintage library table that I got at an antique store in Iowa. And I just loved the simplicity of it and how kind of elegant it already was. It had beautiful wood here, so I wanted to keep that exposed, but still do something kind of fun on the border. And it was in the fall that I painted it, so I wanted to use the kind of rich fall colors. And this is one of my brother's sculptures. He's a really amazing equine sculptor. And I think it shows up really well on this table. This is my gallery, And it's just a combination of originals and giclées, some framed, some unframed. It's where I bring interior designers and anybody else who wants to come and see my art. Come on in, I'd like to show it to you. I'd like to start by showing you some giclées that are unframed, but first of all I'd like to tell you what a giclée is in case you don't know. It's a very high quality reproduction, and in this case it's a 12 color process rather than the usual 4 color process. It's printed on canvas, so between those two things, the 12 color and the canvas, it's very much like a painting. This is one of my favorite ones. I'm doing a series along these lines. Quite impressionistic looking and has that kind of Tuscan serenity with the horses grazing in the garden. That's the name of it, grazing in the garden. So in a bit I'll show you the subsequent version of this. And this painting is, I had my work at a gallery in Vail, Colorado, and since I like doing horses, that's one thing they wanted me to do, is supply them with constant horse paintings. And so this is an oil, but it has a kind of a Colorado feeling to it with the aspens in the fall and kind of a brisk early morning ride on horseback. And that's the name of it, Morning on Horseback. This is an oil painting called Brookside. It's got a dynamic, kind of angular, intense colors, and it is just so fun. It is called Brookside Study. This is a giclée of an acrylic mural. It's actually very large, about 10 or 12 feet across, and it was a commission piece that I did for some people that wanted their passion for sunflowers and their dog and their boats, and it's from the back angle of their house. And it's just a portion of the mural, but it's kind of got a fantasy, whimsy feeling to it. I wanted to show you briefly this little table that's in my gallery. I think it's kind of a fun piece. It's called Blue Horse, which is pretty obvious, but it's just a fun thing. I did this with acrylics and oil on that, and just nice fun colors and a nice flow to it. Another piece I'd like to show you is this little oil painting that, I guess it's obvious by now, I love horses and I also love sky. And this is shows kind of the bond of horse and rider. She's riding bareback off into the sunset. And I think it just has a nice feeling to it with the long shadows being cast by the horse's legs. So I kind of like the feeling of that one.